My stepmother kept telling people my real mom abandoned me because I wasn't worth keeping, so I showed her what abandonment actually feels like. Delilah moved in 3 months after Mom's funeral, redecorating our house like she was erasing every trace of our previous life. At dinner parties, she'd lean in conspiratorially and whisper to guests about my difficult behavior and how my real mother just couldn't cope with such a troubled child. She walked out when Kai was 8, Delilah would say, dabbing fake tears. Never even said goodbye. Can you imagine abandoning your own daughter like that? Mom died of cancer, slowly, painfully. I held her hand through every chemo session, every sleepless night. But Delilah rewrote history to make herself the heroic stepmother who rescued damaged goods. The lies got bolder. At my school's parent night, she told teachers I had abandonment issues from being thrown away by my birth mother. She suggested I needed therapy for attachment disorders I didn't have. When other parents asked about my mom, Delilah would shake her head sadly. Some women just aren't cut out for motherhood, she'd sigh. Thank goodness Kai has me now. Dad believed her version, or maybe he preferred it. Easier than admitting he'd replaced Mom before the dirt settled on her grave. I started recording everything. Her fake crying sessions, her victim performance, her lies about my supposed behavioral problems. For 3 years, I collected evidence of her psychological warfare. The breaking point came at my 16th birthday party. While I was getting cake plates, I heard Delilah telling her book club about my genetic predisposition to abandonment. Her mother had the same instability, she explained. Just got up one day and left. Kai's probably inherited those same defective patterns. That night, I activated my plan. I'd been babysitting and pet sitting since 13, hiding money Delilah never knew existed. By 16, I had enough to disappear completely. I waited until Dad left for his annual fishing trip with his brothers. Tuesday morning, I packed my essentials and left a single note on Delilah's vanity. Now you'll know what real abandonment feels like. Unlike my mom, I'm choosing to leave. I moved in with my Aunt Rosemary 4 states away. She'd been Mom's sister, the one Delilah had systematically cut from our lives with her poisonous stories. For 6 months, I lived quietly, finishing high school online and working at Rosemary's Bakery. Delilah called the police, claimed I was kidnapped, played the devastated stepmother perfectly, but I was legally free to live with family. Through Dad's brother, I heard about the aftermath. Without me as her charity case project, Delilah's perfect stepmother image crumbled. Dad discovered she'd been intercepting cards and letters from Mom's side of the family for years. Her lies started unraveling, but I'd saved the most devastating revelation for last. On the anniversary of Mom's death, I mailed Dad copies of texts I'd found in Delilah's phone, messages to her sister from 2 weeks before Mom's funeral, complaining about having to wait for the cancer patient to finally die before she could redecorate. Dad called me that night, sobbing. The divorce papers were filed the next morning. Last month, exactly 2 years after I left, I received a package from an attorney. Inside was a key and a letter from Delilah, now living in a studio apartment across town. She'd lost everything in the divorce. The house, the money, the social status she'd craved. The letter was brief. You win. But there's something about your mother's death you don't know. Something I never told your father. I stared at those words for an hour, my hands shaking. What could Delilah possibly know about Mom's death that I didn't? I was there. I held Mom's hand as she took her last breath. I watched the monitors flatline. I helped Dad plan the funeral. The key was attached to a small cardboard tag with an address, Storage Unit 247B on the outskirts of town, about 20 minutes from where Delilah now lived. I called Rosemary and told her about the letter. Don't go alone, she said immediately. That woman has caused enough damage. This could be another manipulation, but I had to know. The not knowing would eat me alive, just like Delilah intended. The next Saturday, Rosemary and I drove to the storage facility. The key worked. Inside Unit 247B were boxes of documents, photo albums I'd never seen, and medical records dating back years before Mom's diagnosis. The first box contained correspondence between Delilah and various doctors. Not Mom's doctors, different ones, oncologists from other states. The letters were inquiries about experimental treatments, second opinions, alternative therapies, all dated from when Mom was still in early-stage treatment. Why would Delilah be contacting doctors? I asked, confused. Rosemary was examining a thick manila folder. Her face had gone pale. Kai, she said quietly, you need to see this. Inside the folder were copies of Mom's real medical records. Not the simplified versions they'd shown me as a child, but the complete files. Treatment recommendations, prognosis updates, and something that made my blood run cold, a series of notes about delayed treatment decisions. According to the records, Mom's cancer had been caught much earlier than I'd been told. Stage 1, highly treatable. The survival rate was over 90%, but treatment had been delayed for months while family considerations were discussed. Family considerations. There were insurance forms showing Dad as the primary decision-maker for Mom's care. Forms he'd apparently sat on for 3 months without signing. During those 3 months, the cancer had progressed from stage 1 to stage 3. By the time treatment finally began, Mom's chances of survival had dropped to less than 30%. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would Dad delay her treatment? Rosemary pulled out another folder. This one contained financial documents, life insurance policies, Dad's business records, and bank statements showing significant debts I'd never known about. The timeline became horrifyingly clear. Dad's construction business had been failing for years. He'd taken out loans against the house, maxed out credit cards, even borrowed from Mom's retirement account. The business was months away from bankruptcy when Mom was diagnosed. Mom's life insurance policy was worth $2 million, but only if she died within the first 5 years of the policy, a clause that would expire 6 months after her diagnosis. No, I said, backing away from the documents. No, that's not possible. Dad loved Mom. He wouldn't, but the evidence was right there. Dad had delayed Mom's treatment until the cancer became terminal, ensuring she'd die within the insurance window, and Delilah had helped him do it. There were copies of emails between Dad and Delilah, dated 8 months before Mom's death. They'd been planning this long before Mom got sick. Delilah had researched the insurance clause. She'd found doctors who would provide second opinions about waiting to ensure the treatment was exactly right. The last folder contained recordings, audio files on old cassette tapes, labeled with dates from Mom's final month. With trembling hands, I put the first tape into a dusty player someone had left in the storage unit. Mom's voice filled the small space, weak but clear. I keep asking Richard why we're waiting for the experimental treatment. The doctor said the standard chemo could start immediately, but he says Delilah found a better option, and we just need to be patient. A pause, then. I trust him. He's taking such good care of me. Delilah, too. She brings me soup every day and sits with me when Richard's at work. I'm so lucky to have them both. I stopped the tape and vomited in the corner of the storage unit. Rosemary rubbed my back as I sobbed. Your mom never knew, she said softly. She thought they were trying to save her. But Delilah knew. She knew Mom was dying because they weren't treating her, and she sat by her bedside, pretending to care. I understood now why Delilah had kept all this evidence. It wasn't guilt. It was insurance. If Dad ever turned on her, she could prove he'd been the mastermind. She'd kept every document that implicated him while destroying anything that pointed directly to her. But she'd made one mistake. In her arrogance, she'd kept evidence that implicated them both. The next box contained what looked like a journal in Delilah's handwriting. Daily entries starting 3 months before Mom's death. Day 12. Richard is wavering. He keeps looking at treatment options online. Need to remind him about the insurance deadline. If we wait much longer, the cancer will be too advanced for anyone to question why treatment failed. Day 28. Made Richard promise not to tell the doctors about previous symptoms. If they realize how long we've known, they might rush into treatment. Need at least another month. Day 41. Perfect. Second opinion doctor agrees we should wait for optimal treatment window. Richard is buying it completely. He actually thinks we're being thorough. Day 67. Getting harder to watch her suffer, but we're too close to stop now. Richard broke down last night. Wanted to start chemo immediately. Reminded him about losing the house, Kai's college fund, everything. He's staying strong. Day 89. It's working. Oncologist says cancer has spread too far for cure, but treatment might buy her 6 months. Richard looked relieved. He knows we're past the insurance deadline now. I read entry after entry, watching Delilah chronicle Mom's murder like she was planning a dinner party. The final entry was dated the day before Mom died. She asked if I'll take care of Kai. Promised her I would. Such an easy lie to tell a dying woman. Tomorrow this will all be over, and Richard and I can finally start our real life together. Rosemary had gone quiet, reading over my shoulder. She killed your mother, she said. Not the cancer. Her and your father. They murdered Elena. I called the district attorney's office that afternoon. The receptionist transferred me to a detective specializing in insurance fraud. Detective Morrison listened to my story for 2 hours. I played the audio recordings, showed her the documents, read sections from Delilah's journal. This is substantial evidence, she said finally. But it's been 4 years. The statute of limitations on insurance fraud is 5 years, so we're still within the window. But murder has no statute of limitations. This is murder? Withholding life-saving medical treatment that results in death? In the state of Ohio, that's depraved heart murder. First degree. Your father and stepmother conspired to cause your mother's death for financial gain. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, Detective Morrison had subpoenaed Dad's financial records, confirmed the business debts, and verified the insurance timeline. She interviewed Mom's original oncologist, who confirmed that early treatment would have saved her life. Dad was arrested at his new apartment on a Thursday morning. Delilah was picked up an hour later at the grocery store where she'd been working since the divorce. The local news picked up the story immediately. Local businessman, accused of wife's murder for insurance money. The article included photos of Dad and Delilah being led away in handcuffs. I watched the coverage from Rosemary's living room, feeling hollow. For 4 years, I'd grieved Mom's death as a tragedy. Learning it was murder changed everything. The grief became rage. The sadness became fury. But underneath it all was a strange sense of relief. Mom hadn't abandoned me. She'd been stolen from me. The trial began 8 months later. I testified on the second day, reading portions of Delilah's journal to the jury. When I got to the entry about promising to take care of me, half the jurors were crying. Dad's defense attorney tried to argue that he'd been manipulated by Delilah, that she'd taken advantage of his financial desperation and emotional vulnerability. The prosecutor destroyed that argument by showing the jury emails where Dad had initiated conversations about the insurance timing. Delilah's attorney claimed the journal was fiction, creative writing meant to process her complicated feelings about becoming a stepmother to a grieving child. But the audio recordings corroborated every detail. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Dad got life without parole. Delilah got 30 years with possibility of parole after 20. At sentencing, the judge allowed me to read a victim impact statement. My mother died believing she was loved, I said, looking directly at Dad and Delilah. She spent her final months grateful for your care, never knowing you were killing her for money. She worried about leaving me behind, not knowing you'd already planned to destroy every memory of her love. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes, but Delilah stared at me with cold hatred. I hope every day in prison you remember her voice on those recordings. I hope you remember how she trusted you. And I hope you think about what it felt like when I abandoned you, because that's the closest you'll ever come to understanding what you did to her. After sentencing, Detective Morrison pulled me aside. There's something else, she said. We found additional evidence in your father's business records. A safety deposit box we didn't know about. Inside the box were Mom's original jewelry, documents about her family's estate, and a sealed letter addressed to me. The letter was dated 2 weeks before Mom's death. My hands shook as I opened it. My darling Kai, it began. If you're reading this, it means I didn't survive. I want you to know that every moment of your life has been my greatest joy. You are brave and strong and beautiful, and nothing, not even death, can change how much I love you. The letter continued for 3 pages, full of memories I'd forgotten, and advice for the life she wouldn't see me live. But the final paragraph stopped me cold. I need you to know something important. I've been feeling like something is wrong with my treatment. The delays don't make sense, and some things your father and Delilah have said don't match what the doctors told me privately. I've hidden copies of my real medical records in our safety deposit box. If anything happens to me, promise me you'll investigate. Trust your instincts, sweetheart. They've never led you wrong. Even dying, Mom had been trying to protect me. I moved back to our old house after Dad's assets were unfrozen. The insurance money, the money that cost Mom her life, went into a trust for cancer research. I couldn't touch it. Couldn't spend a single dollar of blood money. The house felt different now. Delilah's renovations looked garish and desperate, like she'd been trying to erase Mom's influence through sheer force of bad taste. I spent weeks undoing her changes, finding Mom's belongings in the garage and basement where Delilah had hidden them. In Mom's old jewelry box, I found something Delilah had missed. A small digital recorder, the kind Mom used to leave herself reminders. The last recording was from the day before she died. I figured it out, Mom's weak voice whispered. Richard thinks I don't understand what's happening, but I do. The delayed treatment, the false hope about experimental therapies, Delilah's sudden appearance in our lives right when Richard's business started failing. I know about the insurance policy. I know about the debts. A pause then. I don't have enough time left to fight this, and I won't put Kai through a custody battle. But I've documented everything. Someday, when she's strong enough, she'll find the truth. And when she does, I know she'll make sure justice is served. Even facing death, Mom had been thinking about protecting me. I played that recording at her grave on the 5th anniversary of her death. You were right, Mom, I said to the headstone. I found the truth, and I made sure they paid for what they did to you. The wind picked up, scattering the flowers I'd brought. For just a moment, I could have sworn I smelled her perfume. 2 years later, I got a letter from the state prison. Delilah had requested a meeting. Against Rosemary's advice, I agreed to see her. She looked older, harder. Prison had stripped away the fake vulnerability she'd worn like makeup. What remained was the cold calculation I'd glimpsed in her journal entries. I want you to know I don't regret anything, she said without preamble. Your mother was weak. She would have died eventually anyway. At least her death served a purpose. The purpose of making you rich? The purpose of giving your father a second chance, of giving us both a life we deserved. I leaned forward. How's that life working out for you? Her jaw tightened. You destroyed everything. You couldn't just let sleeping dogs lie. Sleeping dogs? I laughed. You murdered my mother and told the world she abandoned me. You spent years trying to convince me I was genetically defective. And you think I should have let it go? She was going to die anyway. She had a 90% survival rate with immediate treatment. Statistics don't guarantee anything. No, but withholding treatment guarantees death. That's what you and Dad counted on. Delilah's mask slipped completely. You self-righteous little bitch. You think you're so much better than us? Your precious mother wasn't the saint you remember. She knew Richard was having financial problems. She could have insisted on treatment, could have forced him to sign the paperwork. Instead, she trusted him to make decisions. Her weakness killed her, not us. I stood up. You know what the difference is between you and Mom? She trusted people because she loved them. You manipulate people because you hate them. Mom died surrounded by love, fake love, but she didn't know that. You'll die alone in a cell, and everyone who ever cared about you will know exactly who you really are. I turned to leave. Your father says he wants to see you, Delilah called after me. He's been asking for years. Says he has things to explain. I stopped but didn't turn around. Tell Dad I said he can explain himself to Mom when he sees her in hell. The drive home was peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. Delilah's hatred couldn't touch me anymore. Her lies had been exposed. Her manipulation had been turned against her. Most importantly, Mom's memory had been restored. The people who'd heard Delilah's lies now knew the truth. Mom hadn't abandoned me. She'd been murdered trying to trust the people she loved most. I started a blog called Stolen Goodbyes, sharing mom's story and connecting with other people whose loved ones had been victims of insurance fraud. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people shared their own stories of delayed treatment, suspicious deaths, and family members who'd prioritized money over medical care. Detective Morrison helped me launch a nonprofit focused on investigating suspicious insurance claims. We worked with families to uncover evidence of fraud and helped law enforcement build cases against perpetrators. In our first year, we helped convict 12 people of insurance fraud resulting in wrongful death. The second year, we stopped 4 active conspiracies before they could kill their intended victims. The work was heartbreaking but necessary. Each case reminded me that Mom's death, while senseless, had led to something meaningful. Her murder had taught me to recognize the signs, to ask the right questions, to fight for truth when others preferred comfortable lies. On Mom's birthday, I visited her grave with a stack of letters from families we'd helped. I read each one aloud, telling her about the lives we'd saved in her memory. A woman in Tennessee whose husband tried to delay her stroke treatment for insurance money. We caught him before she died, and she's making a full recovery. A man in Colorado whose business partner tried to convince him to refuse cancer treatment while secretly taking out policies on his life. He's cancer-free now, and his partner is in prison. A teenage girl whose stepfather was withholding her diabetes medication to trigger a fatal incident. She's safe with her grandmother now. I folded the letters and placed them on Mom's headstone. "Your death wasn't meaningless," I whispered. "It was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it wasn't meaningless." The sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows across the cemetery. For a moment, I could almost see Mom sitting beside me, young and healthy like she'd been before cancer, before Delilah, before everything went wrong. "I miss you every day," I said, "but I'm not angry anymore. I found the truth just like you knew I would, and I'm using it to protect other people from going through what we did." A cardinal landed on Mom's headstone, her favorite bird. She used to say cardinals were messages from people we'd lost, letting us know they were still watching over us. I smiled and pulled out my phone. There was a voicemail from Detective Morrison about a new case, a suspicious death in Arizona that showed all the signs of insurance fraud. "Looks like we have work to do," I told the cardinal. It flew away, bright red against the darkening sky. I drove home thinking about Mom's final recording, how she'd predicted I would find the truth and seek justice. She'd known me better than I'd known myself. Even facing death, she'd believed in my strength. That night, I called Rosemary and told her about my visit with Delilah. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Free," I said. "For the first time since Mom died, I feel completely free. Delilah can't hurt me anymore. Her lies can't touch Mom's memory. And Dad made his choice a long time ago. I don't need his explanations or his apologies." "Your mother would be so proud of you," Rosemary said. "The woman you've become, the work you're doing. You turned the worst thing that ever happened to you into something beautiful." I looked at the framed photo of Mom on my desk, the one Delilah had tried to hide, showing Mom laughing in our old kitchen before she got sick. She looked so alive, so full of joy. "I hope so," I said. "I really hope so." The next morning, I got a call from a woman in Michigan whose sister had died under suspicious circumstances. Her brother-in-law had delayed treatment for months, claiming he was researching the best options. Now he'd collected a substantial life insurance payout and married his deceased wife's former best friend. "I found your blog," the woman said. "I think my sister was murdered, but I don't know how to prove it." "Tell me everything," I said, reaching for my notepad. As she spoke, I heard echoes of Mom's story. The delayed treatment, the false reassurances, the convenient remarriage. The pattern was always the same. Trust weaponized against love, hope perverted into a murder weapon. "We're going to help you," I promised her. "And we're going to make sure your sister gets justice." I hung up and looked at Mom's photo again. "One more case," I told her. "One more family gets their truth." The cardinal was back at my window, bright red feathers catching the morning light. It stayed there for a long moment, as if it were listening, then flew away toward the rising sun. I opened my laptop and began typing the case report. Somewhere in Michigan, a murderer thought he'd gotten away with the perfect crime. He was about to learn what Delilah and Dad had learned too late, that some daughters never stop fighting for their mothers. The work continued, the truth continued, and Mom's love, twisted into lies for so many years, finally shone clear and bright, lighting the way forward for every family that came after us. In the end, abandonment had taught me about belonging, lies had taught me about truth, and death had taught me how to live. That was Mom's final gift to me, not just the evidence that convicted her killers, but the strength to use that evidence to save others. She'd known that losing her would either destroy me or forge me into something stronger. She'd bet on strength and she'd won.